everybody, 𝐁𝐨𝐿𝐵 here. Now I'm going to cut straight to the chase. The thing that is holding you back from building speed is pick depth. And I'll tell you all about what I mean by that. And also make sure to watch to the end of the video. I'm going to give you a bonus practice tip for speed. Now pick depth has to do with how deep into the string you go with your pick. So if you think of the pick like a boat in the water and your strings are the water, then your pick depth is how far in that direction your pick goes. So if it's just barely touching the string when you move by, then you have very little pick depth. If it's got a lot of pick sticking out here, you have a lot of pick depth. And it's really important to fix this if you want to build speed. If you are a slow mandolin player and you want to play fast and you keep trying and it's just not happening, well, this is one of the things that's wrong. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of students in private lessons, and almost every one of them had too much pick depth going on when they came to me for lessons. And when somebody tells me I'm having trouble building speed, it's always the first thing I look at, and it's almost always the problem. So we're going to talk about the ideal amount of pick depth, and I'll tell you what to do to follow up and practice it. By the way, if you're trying to improve your speed or any other skill, I have a live online workshop starting October 2nd. Details down below. It's called the Perfect Practice Plan. All right, now let's get into it. Your pick depth is something that can and should change depending on the situation. But however much you're using, it is almost certainly too much. So how much pick depth is the right amount? Well, this depends on how fast you're trying to play and what kind of tone you're trying to get. So if you're trying to get a big, fat, deep tone, you can actually get away with a lot more pick depth and make these really fat notes. But as you start to speed up, that string becomes a speed bump. The farther down your pick is, the deeper into the string it is, the more pick you're going to have to move past that string in order to play a pick stroke. And if you're just playing one note, well, it's not really a big deal. Or if you're playing slowly, we've got plenty of time for that pick to move through. But as you speed up, this starts to be more and more of a problem because every pick stroke is slowed down a little bit by that pick depth, by that speed bump. So when there's too much pick depth, every pick stroke gets slowed down, and gradually that does two things. One is that it causes you to fall behind in speed. It causes you to slow down, but it also wears you out, and you can't play fast for very long because you just get tired and you just can't do it anymore. So how much pick depth should you use? Well, like I mentioned, that depends on the situation. So instead of telling you how much pick depth to use, I'm going to let you know how much pick depth you should use based on observing what's happening when you're playing. Now, you should never have more pick depth than about a half of a pencil eraser. That's it. Don't ever go deeper than that. If you're going farther than that, you're just not going to be able to speed up. By the way, still loving the Tone Slabs Play 𝐁𝐿𝐵 Edition pick. More on that in a second. So if you've got more than about half a pencil eraser, then you're just going to have a lot of trouble speeding up. On the other end of things, if you're just not making a sound come out, if a sound's barely coming out, then you don't have enough pick depth. So here's how you should actually practice this to get the right amount of pick depth. You should try the extremes. So start by digging way too deep. What does that get you? Probably an out-of-tune mandolin. Then go to the opposite extreme. Barely touch that string and see what that gets you. And then get used to everywhere in the middle. This is one of the most important things about practice you can ever learn and apply, is to get to know the parameters you're working with so that you understand, if I do this, then a certain thing happens. If I do this opposite thing, a certain thing happens. That way you understand what you need to do to get something that is right, which is usually something somewhere in the middle. Now, it's really dangerous to say, oh, well, you need exactly this many centimeters. Oh, centimeters? Not centimeters. That's not dangerous. Don't use multiple centimeters of pick depth. Millimeters. We'll go with millimeters. So it's really dangerous to say, oh, well, you should have 1 millimeter of pick depth, for instance, because it just really depends on the situation what you need. And it's something that you are going to have to explore a lot on your own. So if you understand that one end of the spectrum gets you something and the other end of the spectrum gets you something else, then you can really understand how it works and start to build your intuition. Really great players use their intuition quite a lot, and this is something you can build. So how should you practice it? Well, you get used to certain amounts of pick depth, and then on everything you do, try to figure out what is the ideal pick depth for that situation, and how much pick depth can you use and still play fast. Or if you can't play fast at all yet, then how small of an amount of pick depth can you get to get used to that motion playing faster. There are other factors than pick depth to check out, and I've linked my playlist for speed down below where you can check out my other speed videos. But this pick depth thing is one of the main things that you need to explore and get used to if you want to speed up. Now, I mentioned my pick, by the way, the Play Gnately Edition pick. If you sign up for my practice workshop, the Perfect Practice Plan, you get a chance to win this Play Gnately Edition 𝗁𝐶𝐴𝐵𝐵 pick. Well, not this one. You can't have this one. This one's mine. But there's a brand new one in the package that you can win, as well as winning a free private lesson. And also, you have a chance to win my favorite rosin for those of you who are fiddlers out there watching or who play fiddle and mandolin. So check it out. Sign up below, and I hope to see you there. Now, for the additional tip I promised you. This is a really important thing if you're experiencing this particular problem. And if you're not, then just carry on. But this was a problem for me, and it's a problem for a lot of people. And that is, if you are raising your shoulder on your picking hand arm, then you need to stop. And you can tell if you are by just comparing how you normally stand or asking somebody if they see your shoulder coming up. But if you look like this normally, but when you go to play, your shoulder looks like that, well, then that is holding you back from speed, and you need to practice lowering that shoulder. So a great way to do that is just lift them up, let them fall down, shake it out a little bit, and that is probably where your shoulder needs to be. But just like with the pick depth thing, telling somebody to raise their shoulder or lower it a certain amount is not necessarily helpful, because what if your shoulder's already in the right place? Well, then you're trying to lower it more. Or if your shoulder's really, really high, then saying lower it a little bit might actually not be enough. So you need to really observe what you look like. Talk to some people who have seen you play, people who have seen you walk around, people you know, and get some input. And try to get a sense for if you're holding that right shoulder up or not, because that can really, really slow you down. So if you found this stuff useful, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and check out my upcoming workshop, The Perfect Practice Plan. Don't forget to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It's a really easy and free way to help out the channel. Subscribe, and if you're watching on Facebook, follow this page. All right, everybody, I will see you in the next video and maybe in the Perfect Practice Plan class. Try not to dig too deep with your pick, and let me know in the comments how it's going after you try this. All right, bye.